Hopefully next week on Monday we have a few more students in class, but let's do this. I'm going to talk through the way that we're going to spend each one of our days this semester during the live session. Did you watch, Jacob? Did you watch the the recorded lesson tutorial that was sent home last week? That is okay. That is how you should, for this class. What we used to do is we used to just go through all of the problems. You know, we'd go through the lesson material during the hour session, and the kids would never ever have any time to ask questions. So now the math department decided that what we would do is we would record the live or the lesson tutorials, send them to students. That way they can watch it before the class, and then during the live session we'll go through all of the practice problems off the weekly practice. That way you'll have all of the answers to every question on the practice, because in order to get the assessments released, you have to get an 80% or higher on the practice. Now, in order to get an 80% or higher on the practice, all you'd have to do is come to the e-session or watch the recorded main lesson, because we're going to go through all of the problems on the practice for this week. So each week what we'll do is we'll start off with the pace chart. So this week, the things that you should be able to do by the end is I can sketch graphs of equations, and I can identify the x and y intercepts of graphs. So we should also add another one, is the line of symmetry. You should be able to find the line of symmetry for graphs and functions. The lesson tutorial, if you just clicked on the lesson tutorial in the pace chart, it should be a live session or a live link to that lesson tutorial. And then after we're done today with the recorded main lesson, I will make this a live link too, so anybody can go in and watch the recorded main lesson. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do each week is talk about the lesson tutorial, just a real quick 5 minutes on the stuff that's on the lesson tutorial. Now, a big part of this week is being able to write equations of circles and to be able to graph circles. Now, circles, this is a standard form of a circle. X squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. Okay, so this is your radius. And this is when the circle's at 0, the center's at 0, 0. So if I did a circle like this, go out to -4, go down to -4, go to 4. Not a very good circle, but hey. So in this problem, my radius, well, should be 4. So so my radius is 4, and then this is the center is 0, 0. So my equation would just be x squared plus y squared is equal to 16. This would be the equation for this circle. Now, if the circle has a different center other than 0, 0, then the equation is written this way: x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to radius squared. Now, the only difference is this is the center. So, for example, if I had a circle way up here, let's say my circle, the center was right here, which, let's put it right here. So -6, 8. -6, 8 is my center, and let's say that the radius is only 2 here. Okay? So now, if I wanted to write an equation, this would be x plus 6 squared, because this was -6. If you put it in there, negative makes positive, plus y minus 8 squared is equal to 4, because I just squared that. So that would be my equation for this circle. So they're going to ask you to be able to write an equation of a circle. They're going to ask you to graph a circle. Now, you should be able to do other equations also. I mean, circles are not the only thing. You know, if I asked you to graph an equation of y is equal to, let's turn on my mic or my thing. Y is equal to 2x plus 3. Hopefully you understand that this is an equation of a line. 3 is my y-intercept, slope is 2. And you'll find that in this class, in pre-college class, everything that we go through, almost everything that we go through, you should have seen before in Algebra 1, Algebra 2, or Geometry. All of those classes, this kind of is a big review of stuff that you've seen previous, hopefully. Then another part of this week is they'll give you a function. Let's say they give you y is equal to, or let's say they give you, yeah, y is equal to 3x plus 5, and then they'll ask you, is this point or 5 comma 2, is that a solution to the equation? Well, this is my x value, this is my y value. So if I plug that in there, I put 2 in for y is equal to 3 times 5 plus 5, so that's 15 plus 5, that's 20. 2 does not equal 20, so this point is not a solution. So the first problem on the assessment this week just asks you that. It says, are these points on the equation? All you have to do is plug in the x value and the y value. If the left and right hand side are equal, then yes, that point is a solution. If not, it is not a solution. Okay? And then the other part of this week is to be able to find lines of symmetry. We have basically 3 lines of symmetry. The x-axis, the y-axis, and y is equal to x. So x-axis, y-axis, and y is equal to x. Now the x-axis obviously is just this line right here. The y-axis is this line right here. And the other line of symmetry is y is equal to x. Well, that's this line right here that goes right through the origin. Kind of cuts the graph right into 2 equal parts. You know, it's like a 45-degree angle here. So now if I gave you, let's say I gave you something like this, a parabola, and I asked you, what are the lines of symmetry for this graph? Well, the only line of symmetry in this one, if you take a look at it, a line of symmetry cuts a graph directly in half. So if I draw a line straight down here, this would be a line of symmetry, because if we folded it together, it'd be the same thing. Okay, so lines of symmetry. Now, this is an interesting one here. If I gave you, let's say I gave you a circle, and I asked, whoops, I gotta draw this out. And I asked you, what is the lines of symmetry there? Well, it's symmetrical with, if I folded it on the y-axis, it's symmetric. If I folded it on the x-axis, it would be symmetric. And if I folded it on the line y is equal to x, it's symmetric. So it would, all 3 of, a circle would have 3 lines of symmetry. Yeah, all 3 of those would be lines of symmetry there. All right, so that is a quick review of the lesson tutorial that was sent out last week. Any questions on that? Jacob, any questions? All right, then the next thing that we're going to do each week is we're going to do the 10 practice problems off of the practice for the week. Now, how are we going to do that? We're going to do what is called Desmos presentation. So I'm going to put into the chat box, I just put a link. So if you could just click on that link, Jacob, it will take you into the presentation. And the reason I do this is because that way I can watch students do the work. Okay, now some weeks the work is a little bit tougher than other weeks, and you know, to show your work, it's nice, especially when there's a lot of kids in class. Like in my last class, I had like 25 students, and I could watch every one of them work on the board, because all they do is they click into the Desmos presentation, and then I can see what they're doing. Okay, so Jacob, it doesn't look like you clicked in there yet, because I don't see you in the presentation, unless I did something wrong here. 3MB, that should be right. All right, there we go. Okay, so now if we go to slide number, let's jump over all that. If we go to slide number 6, this will be the first problem on the practice for this week. So this problem right here is the first problem on this week's practice. So if you're on slide number 6, now there's not a whole lot of work to do in this one. I did not. I have to share my screen. I'm sorry. So let's go to Chrome tab. I think that's the one I want to do. All right. So if you bounce back and forth from Desmos to the Blackboard Collaborate, you'll see that I have the problem up on the board. Okay. So now it says determine which of the following points lies on the graph of the equation. Okay. So I'm looking at this and it's like, okay, how do I do this? Now, there's not a really easy way of doing this one. I would just take each point and plug them in. So the first thing I would do is I'd look at this and it's like, okay, my x value is 0, so I'm going to put 0 in here. The 0 plus 25, that's the square root of 25, which is 5. That's not 0, 7. That does not work. So if I put 0 in here, and a lot of them are 0. So if I put 0 in here, the square root of 25 is not 6. That does not work. So if I put 0 in here, oh, that looks like it works. So I would go with letter C for that problem. Okay, so there wasn't a whole lot of work to do on there, and some weeks there's a lot of work that we can show, and other weeks there's not a lot. When you're just plugging a value in, there really isn't much work to do. Most of it you can just do right in your head. All right, let's go to slide number 2. I'm sorry, this is slide 7. This is practice problem number 2. Very similar to number 1. It says determine which of the following points lies on the graph of the equation. Okay, so Jacob, which one do you think is correct? So now this is where I can go back to Desmos. I can see that you're on slide number 7, and then you have no response yet. So just choose one of the answers, and if you showed some work, you can definitely show some work. Or this one, you could probably just circle what your answer is, because really, a lot of this stuff you can just do in your head. You just figure out which problem works. All right. So if I was going to do this problem, first thing I would do is I'm looking at this, and I would just take each one of those points again, and I would just, work them out. I'm just going to put 2 in for x. Well, then I have 2 minus 6. Well, that's negative 4. Well, the absolute value of negative 4 is positive 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. Oh, that's awesome, because now I already have the answer to the problem, because if you put 2 in there, remember the absolute value of a negative number is positive. So if I put 2 in here, 2 minus 6 is negative 4. The absolute value, so I could write this out. So I have 2 minus 6 plus 4. So that gives me the absolute value of negative 4 plus 4. Well, the absolute value of that's 4. And that is equal to 8. So that's my y value. So my answer should be letter A for that problem. Okay. Any questions yet, Jacob? All right, let's go to slide number 8. This is practice problem number 3. It says, now this one says write the standard form of the equation of a circle with the given characteristics. Center, 4, 5, radius, 3. Okay, so Jacob, why don't you write the equation, what you think the equation is, and we'll see if you get it. Okay, I'm looking at your answer, and it looks like you have the right idea. However, when you write an equation of a circle, it's always going to be x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to radius squared. So the radius is 3, so this should be 9 over here. Okay, so this should be x minus 4 squared plus y minus 5 squared is equal to 9, not 3. So let's see here. So it looks like letter A. Does that make sense? Why it should not be 3 and it should be 9? And that's the awesome thing about this Desmos presentation. I can see where a student makes their mistake, and it's like, oh, that's an easy one to fix. All right. Next problem, number 4 on the practice. We have write the standard form of the equation of a circle with the given characteristics, endpoints of the diameter. Oh man, this one is way harder, because the question that you have to ask yourself is, what 2 pieces of information do I need in order to write an equation of a circle? Well, I need the radius and I need the center. Okay, well, they didn't give me either of those. So in this problem, the endpoints of the diameter, 2, 3, so over 2, up 3, and 2, 9, so over, that's up 9. So these are the endpoints of the diameter. Okay, so I'm just drawing it in there, 2, 3, and 2, 9. All right, so I need the center. So I know the center is going to be 2 something, right? Because the center is right there, so it's going to be 2, comma, well, in between 9 and 3, is that 6? So my center is 2, 6. So what would my, so center, 2, comma 6. So my radius is this distance here, so that looks like 3. So in that problem, I had to do a little bit more thinking about, okay, endpoints of the diameter, blah, 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 all that. Okay, so now, but I came up with the 2 pieces of information I need in order to write an equation. So x minus 2 squared plus y minus 6 squared is equal to 9. What one is that? X minus 2 squared plus y minus 6 squared is equal to 9. I'm going to go with letter E for that problem. So that one was a little bit trickier. We had to think about the diameter of a circle. All right. Question number 5 on the assessment, or on the practice for this week. It says, what is the line or axis of symmetry of the following parabola? Remember, line of symmetry cuts a parabola, or whatever the function is, directly in half. So it looks like if I drew a line right here, this looks like the line of symmetry. So if I folded it on that line, the 2 graphs would match up. So what is the equation of this line? Well, it's a vertical line, so I know it's going to be x equals, and what does it go through? -3. So it's going to be x equals -3 is going to be my line of symmetry for this graph. All right, let's see if there's another one like that. I guess not. Test the following points of symmetry about the origin. All right, so now this problem, it's like, I wish I had a piece of graph paper. It'll probably make it a whole lot easier. So in this problem, it just wants us, I'm just going to put the points in there. So -1, -5 would be down here someplace. -3, -8, so -3, -8 is going to be down here someplace. And if I had a piece of graph paper, it would make it a whole lot easier. -5, -13, down here. 1, 5, 1, 5. 3, -8. So 3, -8, down here. And 5, -13. 5, -13. All right, I have a feeling I messed up with this point here. I think this point was supposed to be -1, 5. or I'm sorry, 1, -5. I think that was supposed to be 1, -5. So it looked like this. I believe. I want to say I changed it on the practice. I'm not 100% sure I did. But I believe that should have been 1, -5 because it really doesn't make much sense if it's not. And then I would say the points have symmetry about, I suppose it could be letter D. Let me see what my answer key is. I thought I changed it. Let me go in there because I don't want to give you a wrong answer on the practice for this week because that's not cool. Let me take a look here. That was problem number 5, was it? Or number 6? No, it's letter D. So I guess that point does go up here and it's not here. So if this point is up here, then it doesn't have any lines of symmetry. Now, if the point was here, then it would have a line of symmetry about the y-axis, but it wasn't. So it's that. So it has, the points have no line of symmetry there. Okay. Yeah, I thought I changed it, but I guess I didn't. So we'll go with letter D from the answer. All right. Now, which line is a line of symmetry for the design? Okay. So, Jacob, which line is a line of symmetry there? Line A, B, C, or D? Letter C. I would agree 100%. That is correct. Yep. Letter D looked like it would work, but it's a little bit lower than halfway through there. Because when I first looked at it, it's like, oh, it's a letter D. And then it's like, oh, it's not. D would have to be, if D was working, it would have to be up here just a little bit more. Then D would be correct. But letter C cuts it directly in half. So I agree that letter C is correct for that one. All right. Question number 8 on the practice. It says, graphically estimate the x and y intercepts. Well, when it's graphed out, it's pretty easy to find x and y intercepts. X-intercepts are where it crosses the x-axis. Y-intercepts are where it crosses the y-axis. So in this problem, it looks like I have 2 x-intercepts. They look like +3 and -3. And it looks like I have 1 y-intercept. Oh boy, that is really small. I'm going to go with 81 since I'm just looking at the answers down here. So I'm going to say that the y-intercept is 81. So plus or minus -3 for my x-intercept. So x-intercept plus or minus -3. Y-intercept 0, 81. I agree with letter A. So x and y intercepts, just where it crosses the x and y axis. Question 9. What is the line or axis of symmetry of the following equation? Now, this is where you could get Desmos out to graph this, or if you understand how to graph quadratics, I know that the center of this thing is -2, 10, or the vertex. So -2, 10. This parabola opens up, so it looks like this is my, oops. So it looks like my parabola would look something like this. So my line of symmetry would go right down the middle here. So it looks like it's a vertical line at -2. So x equals -2 would be my line of symmetry. Now, if you didn't understand the whole concept of graphing a parabola, you can always go back to the Desmos calculator and you can graph it out and see what the graph looks like, and then you could answer the question. So I'm going to go with x equals -2 for my line of symmetry there. And then the last question on the practice this week, it asks you to write an equation that represents a circle. Well, in order to write an equation of a circle, you need two pieces of information. You need the radius and you need the center. And when it's graphed out, it's really nice because that's really two pieces of information that you should be able to find pretty easily. This looks to me like the center, so that's -1, 2. And then the radius, if I just count down 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like my oh, I put this in the wrong spot. Nah, I'll put 4 as my radius. So the radius is 4. My center is -1, 2. So easy to write an equation. X plus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared is equal to square the radius. So that would be 16. So x plus 1, y, it looks like letter C would be my answer for that one. So this is how each week is going to work. I'm going to talk through the lesson material, and then we're going to go through the practice problems off the practice for that week. So everybody should be able to get a 10 out of 10 on the practice because we've gone over all the answers. And then I'll just go through, what's going to be on the assessment. Okay, so this week, the first type of problems on the assessment are very similar to this. It says determine whether the ordered pair is a solution of the given linear equation. So all you're doing is you're just plugging the points in. So this would be my x value and my y value. So if I put 0 in for x, that would be 0 minus 8 times 5 is equal to -40. 0 and then 8, so that's -40 is equal to -40. That is true. So 0, 5 is a point on this graph. So that is how the first type of problems on this week's assessment are going to look. Problem number 2 this week is going to look like this. It's going to be asking you questions about circles. Can you write an equation of a circle? Can you graph a circle? So in this problem, the center is 5, 2. The radius is 7. So I would just go x minus 5 squared plus y minus 2 squared is equal to 49. I would get rid of that, and that would be my equation. And then the third type of problem that's on the assessment this week are, you're supposed to write an equation for this one too. So if I had to write an equation for this one, what two pieces of information do I need? I need the radius and I need the center. Well, the radius is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the center looks like -2, 1. So if I had to write an equation there, I'd have y. I always start with x. X plus 2 squared plus y minus, what did I say that one was, is equal to 25. And that would be my equation of the circle. So every week, that is how we're going to work this out. Now, obviously, hopefully next week we'll have more than one student in here, but that's it. Jacob, do you have any questions about the course? Anything I can go through with you? And if not, that is it for this week. Hopefully you should be able to get your practice done today, and hopefully you get your assessment done today also. Jacob, you have a great rest of the week. Hopefully I'll see you next week on Monday, okay? All right, bye.